All right, our final speaker today is Eliyahu Krigel. Eliyahu attended Sarah Lawrence College and received a Bachelor of Arts in Religious Studies and his Master's from the William Davidson Graduate School of Jewish Education at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. He is currently a doctoral candidate at Gratz College. He's Director of Education at Congregation B'nai Amunah. Please welcome Eliyahu Krigel.
On the right? Yeah. It's on right here. Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here. So our food for the Super Bowl is just going to take on a completely different meaning now. Before I start talking about kashrut and keeping kosher and food within Judaism, I just wanted to put a plug in for Anytown. One of the things that I do every year is I'm an advisor for Anytown, which is an incredible program. So if you have high school students that you know of or your kids, we'd love for them to join the Anytown program. It's a very transformative program. In Hebrew, you might say B'tei Avon as a way, good appetite in English, or B'tei Avon, bon appetit. One thing that I do with Ahmed is that we teach a class on Monday nights comparing Judaism and Islam. And so if you're available on Monday nights, there are brochures in the lobby for Adult Institute. So we'd love to have you join us on Monday nights at 7:15. Okay, so when I'm talking about kashrut, or keeping kosher, before getting into what it's all about, I just wanted to speak a little bit about halakha, or Jewish law. Halakha is from the word holech, which means to walk in God's way. And this halakha these are the domains of the law. There are 6 different categories of Jewish law. Zeraim is the prayers, the blessings, the tithes, agriculture, Moed, Nashim, Zekinim, Kedoshim, and Tahorot. So the section of the law that has to do with kashrut is called Kedoshim. Kashrut is the system of Jewish dietary observance. It describes a way of living in the world. You can say this is kosher, this is not kosher, but really at its root, keeping kosher, it's the Jewish dietary laws. And it's about raising awareness of what we're putting into our bodies. I grew up in Kansas City, not keeping kosher. Okay. But, my parents didn't keep kosher. We were still Jewish. Whether or not you keep kosher doesn't have to do with whether or not you're Jewish or not. So I think one distinction to make in terms of, it has to do with commitment to the halakha. Halakha means Jewish law, and some Jews keep kosher, and some Jews don't keep kosher, but they're still Jewish. And it's not a hierarchy. It really has to do with levels of commitment to the halakha. Kosher is the Yiddish version of the adjective meaning ritually fit. But there are many challenges to keeping kosher. How many kosher restaurants are there in Tulsa? Right? Tulsa is a very small Jewish community, so there are actually no kosher restaurants in Tulsa. So even in Kansas City, there are no kosher restaurants. I think in Dallas is the closest kosher restaurant. So just availability might be one challenge, and it's also it might not be accessible to people who don't know the laws. But there are many benefits to keeping kosher, right? This is a restaurant in Tulsa. No, not a restaurant in Tulsa, a restaurant in Israel, a pizza restaurant in New York. I'm taking a group of 20 students from our Hebrew high school to New York during spring break, and one of the big topics of discussion is where are we going to eat? And we're going to have all these kosher restaurants that we're going to go to, so we're very excited for that. Kasher is the Hebrew version of the adjective meaning ritually fit. So it's not that it's clean or unclean, but it's ritually fit. Kasher can also function as a verb, meaning to make something ritually fit for Jewish use. These 2 women right here are koshering their kitchen. It's basically a deep clean. And they have smiles on their faces. Who smiles when they're cleaning? The opposite of kosher is treif. That's the Yiddish pronunciation of the Hebrew word teref, terefah. Food is not clean or dirty, but rather it's kosher or treif. Treif refers to the notion of something torn. It referred originally to an animal torn by another animal, killed with a dull knife, or having a defect. So a little graphic slide for you. Okay. So these animals would be treif, or unfit to eat. So the basic standards of the system. Keeping kosher comes from a line in Deuteronomy: do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. And a kid in this case is a baby goat. So the idea is to separate milk and meat. So we have meat plus milk. Can I get a drum roll on the tables? Drum roll, thank you, thank you. Doom and gloom, doom and gloom. It's not that I'm going to be zapped or anything if I eat non-kosher food. But it depends who you ask, I guess. So what is kosher? What are the different qualities of the food, and how do the food fit into kosher? Fruit is parv. So food is either meat or dairy, and parv is kind of in the middle. So fruits and vegetables can go with a meat meal, or it could go with a dairy meal. So they're kind of right in between. Eggs are also parv. And so is fish. And Orthodox Jews will actually separate the fish from the meal, but in general, fish is also parv. So kosher has to do with the food that we eat, but not only food, but also the dishes too. So there's another layer to this. There's a blessing that we say when we first purchase metal dishes. Blessed are you, O Lord God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us concerning immersion of vessels, tevilat kalim. And this is a process of taking the vessel that we purchased and dunking it into the mikvah, or it's like a spiritual cleansing for the vessel. So like I said before, you have meat and dairy separated. In the same way, you would separate your dishes. At the synagogue, we have two kitchens. We have a meat kitchen and a dairy kitchen. But at my house, we just have one kitchen, and we have different sections of the kitchen. We have our dairy dishes, and then we have our meat dishes on the other side. But like I said, I grew up in Kansas City, and I grew up not keeping kosher, in a very loving, supportive, engaged Jewish family. But we didn't keep kosher. And so when I became more religious after my sophomore year of college, when I came home, there was some conflict because, my family didn't keep kosher, but I wanted to keep kosher. And so one concession that my parents made is we have a little section in our kitchen at home in Kansas City, and that's like the kosher area. And it's always fun when my kids go to Kansas City and they see Nana and Papa eating bacon or eating the non-kosher food, and they know that that's something that we don't really do, but we still have lots of respect for them. Another level of keeping kosher has to do with kosher for Passover. And basically kosher for Passover, this is just a picture. Oh, see, totally on the wrong slide. There, kosher for Passover. A family sitting around the meal, the table. Kosher for Passover is basically just another level of kashrut. There are all these laws that have to do with separating the chametz and the matzah. The matzah is the unleavened bread, and the chametz is the bread that is puffed up. And so during Passover, we just eat the matzah and not the chametz.